What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I want to talk about Super Micro with you guys. I'm going to break down some very important things about the share price, talk about what the news is saying about it, what you should be watching for as time progresses with this stock. Before I break anything down, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's talk about this stock. So looking at SMCI, we've seen this thing actually explode. If I'm going to be frank with you, it was running very hard for the last couple of weeks, especially ever since we started February. This thing was just barely in the 500s. This thing basically doubled in a very short period of time. But if we go back, even further back, you could see that this was a big winner, just running like crazy, continuing to squeeze after this period of consolidation. So the question is this thing a buy? Would I buy into this? Do I think that this thing is going to run more? And what do I think is going to likely pan out? So I'll talk about this in a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about what this company is and how things are looking. For those who don't know, I'm going to start off right here. Supermicro is actually a very important company. It's a global leader in high performance, high efficiency server technology and innovation. It develops and provides end-to-end grid computing solutions to the data center, uh, cloud computing, and other things like that. And what they're able to do with the data systems is pivotal for the semiconductor chips out there. So this is why you're going to see them actually being associated with the data solutions for NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, and others out there. And that's very important. So that's very good for them. And with their technologies, with what the systems they're able to develop, this is going to be very good for like new optimized airflow. They could also use like the chips more effectively, and there's so many other things they could do with this technology. So awesome stuff right over here. It's very important for reducing costs and actually working on different things from like architecture and all sorts of different things out there, which the data solutions are used for. So very useful technology, useful information, and it's also a very good provider for data that could be used for AI development. So that's another very big factor and a very good thing about it. So with the IT solutions, you can see their net sales were about 3.66 billion versus 2.12 billion expected. And they actually beat on earnings all over the place. Their margins were a little bit more slim than what they were expecting, but a lot better than what we saw in the past. And besides that, everything else is pretty decent. As of December 31st, they had the cash equivalent of about $726 million. So not the worst and not bad so far. Shares also popped after their earnings came out in January. This thing started running like crazy after that. Revenue came in at 3.66 billion, up from 3.06 billion. And their guidance actually was pretty good. They raised it to a range of 14.3 to 14.7 billion dollars. And they did very well. So you can see right over here, steady growth, good earnings, very nice potential, and strong growth as well in terms of expectations and guidance. So very good. They have very nice projections, and they're also getting a lot of attention and headlines as this thing is up 171% year to date. So it's getting all this attention. It's very awesome to like witness, awesome to see things like this. But the question is this going to be worth it? Would I buy this stock? The answer is it's going to depend on different factors. So one issue with it is that if you look at the stock's valuation, which is a price to earnings multiple of 58, it could be out of consideration for a lot of value investors because you could argue it's very overvalued and ran too hard too fast. But from my perspective, I wouldn't necessarily stop myself from trying to buy a little bit into it, but that's going to depend on where it tries to base. And also, you want to be very careful. So, what I mean by that is, if this thing were to dip a lot more, then I could consider buying it. But right now, this is not the type of play that I would typically buy because of the way it's been moving. So, what happened to this was we got a squeeze essentially. It's basically a very nice squeeze like move. And a lot of FOMO came in because this is like a small cap, has a very small amount of outstanding shares, and when billions of dollars start flooding into it, the share price just explodes. Now it exploded and ran super fast, running and running and running. It was also green for 9 straight days, essentially. And as this thing was just pumping, we finally saw a big red day on Friday. This thing came down finally, trying to base at 800. And that's the issue with this. So there's no guarantee this thing is going to hold 800. That's the big issue when you run so hard, so fast. Typically, stocks will come back down when there's like profit taking and other factors like that. So, in my opinion, I think that this could be a very fun stock to kind of like scalp, to ride here and there. But I don't see this as like a very strong buy at the current valuation. I could buy some for fun on the side and just like play around with it. But I wouldn't necessarily buy just like that from where we currently are. I have to wait and see if this thing would like base or anything like that. But will this thing squeeze again? That's the question. Is it going to crash? Is it going to squeeze? I believe that right now we have to wait and see because we got a very big red day on Friday. We lost like 20%. So with that happening, here's what I'd basically say. I'm gonna wait for it to drop more and see where it tries to base at. Okay, we'll see if it holds 800. If it fails to do so, we have this important range that actually extends to about 754. So it could even drop lower to these levels down below. I'll be eyeing this range right here. This is going to be very key for the stock. So I'd be watching to see how it reacts to this range. This is like where it tried to bounce thus far. So we'll see if this ends up acting as another pivot point or if it ends up kind of like basing around this area. So I'll be watching for that. But can it squeeze again? Yes. Yes. It could run again. Okay. When stocks have runs like this, they don't typically just run once and never run again. There's going to likely be a lot of attention coming back, especially if there's big news. So I say yes, it can run again. Will I buy this the same way I buy Apple or Tesla? The answer is no, I don't think so. I don't think that they're fundamentally aligned the same way, but I think that long term, if we get a very good buying point, if this thing starts falling back down to very low levels, I could see myself buying it, even fundamentally. At the current valuation, I don't see myself buying right here. I have to see how it reacts, but for fun, I could play this. And I also want to add that if I were to play this, I would just scalp it. That's my honest opinion of it. Could this thing squeeze? There are some institutions and some articles saying it is due for a bounce. I do think it's going to try to bounce soon, and I do think it's going to run again. I think it could happen next week, but we first have to see where it bases. That's what I'm going to wait for. Let's see where it bases. Once this thing bases, we'll know if this thing's going to like bounce or something. So yes, it's going to run again. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going to run again to high numbers. We could retest these high levels. It just depends on where we bounce. So I don't know if it's going to come all the way down to like 715, then try to bounce, or if it bounces from here. That's why it's a little difficult to predict where it's going to run to. So I just want to wait and see where it bases at. So that's the best thing I could tell you. I see another big run coming for this. Definitely, I don't doubt that. But it's not the type of play I'd buy long term. I'd buy like crazy. I could, play around with it. I could buy a few here and there if I wanted to. But I see this as more of just like a play you could scalp and make money on the sidelines with. And if this thing pumps really hard, this is not financial advice. Don't be afraid to take profits, right? Because if you had held from the run for the last few days when this thing was at 750, if you had just held it through everything and this thing fell and you just kept holding, it wouldn't have been nice because you would barely make much of a profit if that ended up being the case. So take profits. This is like a pump and dump kind of stock. It could pump a lot more. I do see squeeze potential in it, but like I said before, not the type of stock I typically buy. I wouldn't buy a large bulk of this. I could just play around with it. And that's pretty much it for the video. So fundamentally, it has good fundamentals, strong guidance, and such. But many could argue that the current valuation is not aligning with that. It's a little bit overvalued or it ran too hard too fast. That is subjective because there are other stocks that could run like crazy involved in AI hype. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of this running more. It's just not the type of play I would typically buy into, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's more of just a fun play. You could scalp and so on and so forth. So with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully this video was insightful. I see potential in this to bounce next week, but let's just wait and see where it bases first, and we'll just be very patient from here on out. Be careful with plays like these; they can be very tricky, and do not let FOMO get the best of you. Okay, that's the one of the biggest lessons I learned in trading. FOMO could be your enemy. If you FOMO into a play the wrong way and you don't take profits adequately, it could work against you. So control your emotions, be patient, wait for it, give it time, and let's see where this thing finds its bottom and tries to bounce. It's going to run again. I believe it will, but be patient and wait, okay? All right, that's it for this one. I want to make this kind of like interesting, very, very short and simple. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about like individual tickers and like other things like that. For the time being, since we have a long weekend, the market's going to be closed again on Monday. Don't forget about that. And we'll be back very, very soon. So have a great day, guys. Enjoy the weekend and peace out.